Tonight, the topic is going to be base mechanics. And since we spend the majority of our time during the game on plays from scrimmage, it's very, very important that we spend time on it and recognize key components that we have to put into play consistently. And being creatures of habit, the more habitual things become for us, the more likely it is that as human beings that we will perform consistently what needs to be done on a given play. I would also add that if we employ correct mechanics across the board, across the field at every position, our chances of getting plays correct go way up. There are two things that Bob Wagner pounded into my head over the years. First of all, that we need to understand philosophy, what is and what isn't a foul. In other words, what's quality foul, what is not. And then secondly, that we're in proper position to actually see the information that puts us into a position of making a good decision. Either yes, that is worthy of a foul, or no, it's not. So base mechanics are critical. And hopefully you had a chance to review the PowerPoint. And by the way, if you didn't get the PowerPoint, if you would just put that into the chat, Gregor will make note of it, and I'll make sure that you get it so that you'll have a chance. The key thing about base mechanics that tried to be communicated throughout that PowerPoint is that we have to consistently perform. And when we do it that way, when we stay ahead of the play as deep wings and as back judges, we are in the proper position to make the kinds of decisions that we need to make. So without further ado, unless you have specific questions concerning the PowerPoint, we'll move forward into video that will illustrate the key points that were presented in the PowerPoint. Gregor, let me know if a question comes up. Okay, this first clip was an early season game last year between two perennial powers, and they went at it. And they had a great game. And as you would hope in a game like this, it went down pretty much to the wire. It's Rochester Ames and Orchard Lake St. Mary. All right, now, if you can fast forward, Gregor, what we're going to get is we're going to get a pass that comes up the field towards the bottom of the screen. Now, the first thing is that our deep wing at the bottom is going to be a little bit slower reacting because the pass goes to the player who's in the slot. All right. Now, if you look at, stop it, Gregor. If you look at the PowerPoint, what it talks about is, yes, you have to be aware of your key, but you need to put your key on your outside eye. So for the deep wing, his key should be on his outside eye, or in this case, the left eye. Now, that's going to give you the opportunity to see that flash coming from more in the center of the field, and therefore be able to react quicker to cover this play better on this pattern that is thrown now to the slot back. You can see we're too close. We need right about here where he finishes is where we need to be at the mesh point. The back judge has good depth. He's in the center of the field, but we should have our deep wing back at about the 40-yard line to see through these players. Now, as it turns out, no harm, no foul, literally. We don't have a foul here, but it's not always going to be that way. So it's really, really important. The other point is the back judge, for some reason, only he knows, came in and took this forward progress spot. We've got to rely on our umpire to hustle down and to take this spot, because what isn't going to show up here is that team A just made a big play and they're going to hurry to the line of scrimmage. And what we're going to end up doing is our back judge is in a dead sprint trying to get back to his position. The crew is not ready to officiate, and the back judge has got to stay out of forward progress. Okay, deep wing comes up, helps the short wing with the spot, but we got to be back ready to go. The other thing from a crew perspective is umpires and referees do not allow the snap to go until your crew is in position to officiate. Now, that starts in the pregame with your snappers and your quarterbacks, where you need to instruct them that they cannot snap until we get the umpire out of there and situated. We don't want the snap occurring while the umpire has his back to the snap or where he's going to be in harm's way with the linebackers or the linemen. So key components there to review quickly. Deep wing has got to keep a broader perspective and not put his nose on his key. And secondly, give ground then to make sure that he stays appropriately ahead of the play. Back judge, stay out of forward progress. Let the umpire come up and take that forward progress spot. Okay, next clip. All right, initially, we're going to have good mechanics by our deep wing here at the top of the screen, but we don't continue to react with our feet. We get our knees locked and we stay, go ahead and run it, Gregor. We stay pretty stationary. And at our deep three positions, we have got to be mobile. We've got to have our feet moving, and we need to move so that we don't have plays catch up with us like this. The back judge was in good position. I would say that the back judge needs to stop, though, at the hash mark. We don't want you running all the way over to retrieve the ball. We will get the ball from the player. He will either bring it back all the way to the umpire. He will find someone to get rid of the ball, all right? So we don't need a ball retriever here. We don't need the back judge going over to get the ball, but we need the deep wing to continue to progress. Now, he's good here. He's refereeing the block. But now he's got to give ground. There's a possibility that this runner is going to go all the way. Now the defense checks up and is able to force this runner out of bounds. But we can never assume that a tackle is going to be made or a runner is going to be forced out of bounds. He needs to keep his feet moving. That would be at least that black area or probably wider than that. Off the field, what would be the 6 foot area, and be prepared to referee the goal line. Back judge, stop at the hash mark. All right. And we certainly are not going to take forward progress. That's going to be short wing all the way. All right, next clip. Now, this is going to be a broken play, and it's going to go to the left of the screen. And what I would say to you, deep three, is sometimes when receivers take us deep, we can be 40, 50 yards away from the line of scrimmage. That's okay. We cannot allow people to get behind us. When you see a receiver that continues to run deep, you've got to respect that, and you've got to continue to keep your cushion so that you keep potentially that pass that might be thrown to that person. We can't referee plays the way we do in this particular case by the back judge or the deep wing. Maybe we underestimate the arm strength of the quarterback. That would go along with our preparation by watching the video about our teams, so that we're not surprised that this quarterback easily wings this ball 60 yards in the air. Now, we won't comment on the foul. I don't see how we end up with a hold here. I will say that because I got to believe that at the time that we had restriction, if there was so, by the defensive back, that ball was airborne, which of course is going to make it DPI rather than OPI. But back judge is beat, deep wing is beat because either we underestimated the strength of the arm strength of the passer, or we didn't see the receivers going deep. Regardless, we got to respect that and get back. All right, next play. This is going to be a pass that's going to go to the deep third of the end zone. And when this occurs, again, this is an arm strength situation for this quarterback. He's going to step up and away we're going to go. Now we end up with an illegal forward pass because he's beyond the line. And by the way, our short wing on that side of the field did a really nice job holding the spot. If you go back to the play, you're going to note that the short wing at the top of the screen drifts. There's nothing going on. and your deep wings and deep three. But just as a point of reference with your crew mechanics, there's no reason for that short wing to drift downfield. There's just nothing going on there. So hold your spot. You never know what's going to happen. You may have to save the crew from the other side of the field. All right, enough about that. But as you can see, this pass is going to threaten the back third of the end zone. The back judge has got to get all the way back to the end line. And we take that very, very casually, as opposed to getting back there and having that covered. The other thing is, from a deep wing perspective, when the pass is going to threaten the back third of the end zone, you're going to leave the goal line, come down that white area, and be prepared to assist back on the end line. You can see that we're a little bit short and a little bit slow coming off of the goal line, but I guess I would rather have you under control than running around like a chicken with your head cut off. But just understand that when that pass goes that deep into the end zone, you're leaving your goal line to help, and you want to get stationary to help the back judge with that decision. Next clip, Gregor. All right, let's jump to 43. This is going to be a timing situation for our deep wing. And we have to make decisions as a deep three in terms of when we have to commit to our cushion to make sure that we stay ahead of it. Now, we reach a point right now where we need to recognize that this run has a chance to go a long way. And I wouldn't say this was a bad job by the deep wing. I just think it was a little bit casual. And first game of the year, maybe we weren't really thinking, and we didn't have our mechanics all the way down. But I'd like to see this deep wing get started just a little bit sooner so that it's not as rushed as it turns out to be here at the end. As you can see right now, you got to recognize this as a back judge and a deep wing. Back judge really got beat. And again, he wants to come back and take the spot. I guess he didn't learn anything from the play earlier in the game where we were caught because mechanically we were not ready. Stay out of forward progress. Please, back judges, stay out of forward progress. Let the umpire do his or her job. All right, so recognize this as a running play. And right now you're going, all right, this got a chance to go. So we need, now I'll say this about the deep wing. He kept his shoulders pretty square to the sideline. That part of it was good. We just need to react sooner. And when we make that commitment, we need to make a full commitment, which of course gets back into our pre-snap business that we talked about last week. We need to make sure our sideline is clear and we have confidence that we're not going to have a collision because we've got players, coaches, game personnel, what have you in the way. That's a pretty good sideline over there. I would like to think that we would never face a challenge other than that one. If everyone would hold to that standard, we'd be in good shape. All right, next clip. Here's a case, as you saw in the PowerPoint, back judges get a little more latitude in terms of backpedaling, but you can't backpedal very long. And when you see your cushion closing, it's time to make the transition, and our back judge does not transition soon enough and consequently ends up almost in the way here. That's too late to make that transition to turning. And he does get turned around. He does a good job checking with the deep wing, recognizing that this is not a touchdown, that the runner's down short of the goal line, but we're in scramble mode and we don't want to scramble, any more than we have to. Sometimes you scramble just because somebody is so fast that even properly performing the mechanics, you can't get where you would ideally like to be, and you just got to make the best you can of the situation. Here, this was a self-inflicted wound. And by the way, it's a good time for me to mention that when we highlight officials in our clips and in certain games, please don't personalize that. We have to be professional enough to learn from each other. and both the good stuff and the stuff that we can improve upon. So if you're either on some of these clips or you know some people, please don't see it as being a criticism of their work. We're grateful for the fact that they're out there, and we're hoping with sessions like this that we can help everyone get better. All right, next clip. I know this is going to be a snap from the 27-yard line. Now, think about this. You're supposed to start as a deep wing somewhere between 22 and 24. So doing some simple math, we should probably be, our deep wing should be starting at about the 5. Note that the back judge is lined up at the 10. Way too close, way too close. From the 27, I would say minimum, he should be at the 5 and even at the goal line. And remember, none of the deep 3 line up between the 5 and the goal line. You're at the 5 or you're at the goal line. All right, so back judge is too close, should be at the, and you can see he immediately backpedaled. So if we're immediately backpedaling at the snap, that should tell you whether you're a deep wing or a back judge, you don't have confidence in your cushion, your initial starting position. So you're too close. You've got to have a comfort position where you're starting from so that you can read and react to whether it's a running play or a passing play. So back judge at a minimum at the 5, maybe even the goal line, and the transition then for the deep wing at the top of the screen going from the 5 to the goal line obviously is quicker. The other thing that I would say is that the deep wing should widen himself out as he's getting closer to the goal line so that he's back at the limit line. You can see this is going to happen really, really close to the goal line pylon. Now, as it turns out, it's incomplete. So no harm is done, but that play could have turned out differently. The other thing is move that goal line marker back to the track. If you look at that field, the press box does not need that orange marker to know that that's the goal line. You know, this is not the 1950s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s. Our fields are marked in such a way that we really don't need those markers at all. But somebody bought them at one point. They want to use them so that they get the value of the money. I get that. But particularly at the goal line, get that orange thing back to the track out of your way so that you can back up as far as you want to, so you don't trip over it. And yes, I did that during my career. I tripped over a goal line marker. So learn from my mistake. So this turns out okay, but what if this pass is controlled by the receiver? Did he come down out of bounds? Was the ball, did he survive the ground? All those sorts of things are going to be a whole lot easier to adjudicate if we are stationary at goal line extended. All right, next clip. Let's go to clip number 39. All right, in this clip, we're going to get motion, which is going to, of course, change the keys for our crew. In terms of the deep 3, but you can see that no one is pressed. Now, when you have no one being pressed, yes, you have your key, and yes, you have a side of the field, back judge, that you're going to be primarily responsible for until the play develops. But keep your vision wide. When there's no threat, there's no need for you to have a laser pointed point of view onto your key. Look more broadly so that you can see how the defense is reacting to the pattern, how the receivers may be coming forward, and potentially you have an OPI situation coming up. The other thing, if you are the back judge and the deep wing at the top of the screen, at the snap, these receivers did not come off of the line aggressively, which normally tells us that it's either a running play or what happened here is that this was a jet screen to the bottom of the screen. All of these things are things that will tip us off in terms of what sort of a play we're going to have. Now, the deep wing at the bottom of the screen has transition blocking. And if we go back to the origin of this play, you can see that we're going to have blocking that's going to set up with our wide receiver as well as linemen. Now, you're going to start from the outside in, and this wide receiver at about the 35-yard line is going to come up and now is going to form up this defensive back. Now, unless he immediately absolutely pulls him to the ground immediately, we're not going to have a foul. Even if he violates, he's outside of the frame, grab and restrict, what have you, until the defensive player attempts to make a play. Like if he tries to come up and support the run and he gets held up, all right, now you probably have a foul. But you're going to wait for this thing to develop to make sure that it has a material effect. And now we're morphing a bit into quality fouls that we'll talk about in a subsequent week. But now as this play develops, you can't assume that this runner is going to be driven out of bounds. And as you can see here, he tippy-toed down the sideline and our deep wing continued to progress. I would say satisfactorily. And you can see he continued to backpedal even after the play was over to keep his depth away from the players so that he could observe what's going on. He knows that he does not have the dead ball spot. The dead ball spot belongs to the short wing. So he's going to continue to give ground, watch the players pursuing. He had some potential pricks with bricks that could have committed dead ball fouls by charging up the back or pushing an opponent from behind. So this play was very, very well officiated. You can see the back judge continues to give ground. Shoulders are approximately parallel to the sideline, and he stops at the goal line and then pauses. He doesn't come charging in there to get the ball. We'll get the ball into the umpire at the hash on a timely basis. He stays back and observes players. This was well officiated by our deep three. You can see the deep wing on the opposite side of the field also did a good job recognizing the play situation. Now, the thing that I would say to you is if you are the off deep wing, you really don't have responsibility on the ball. It might be in your peripheral to see it over there, but you should be looking at the masses that are chasing from behind. That's where we need you to really put your focus. The same thing would be true for short wings. We don't need you focusing from the other side of the field, this runner, oh, gee, I thought he was going to go out of bounds. You have an awareness that he's close to the sideline, but that really should not be in your thought process. You should be looking at those players that are pursuing down the field. All right, next clip, Gregor. All right, this is going to be another transition blocking situation. You can note the formation. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Now that flag was for a foul with an interior lineman. All right, so stop right there. All right, let's examine this formation. In a sense, this is a full house backfield. You've got three backs and the quarterback, and then you only have one wide receiver. So your immediate thought process, it's 1st and 10, probably going to be a running play, but it could be a play action pass. So deep wing at the top of the screen, you obviously have the tight end, at least initially. And then if we go slow here, Gregor, you can see that this back that's behind the guard is going to come out and is going to engage at the corner. So right now, stop. Initially, the deep wing had the tight end. Now, I'm not going to tell you to forget about the tight end, but as you can see, the traffic, it's pretty tough in there. It might be difficult for you to really have a good look at that. The other thing that you're going to notice is that 44 came out and is right at the point of attack. So your attention at the very least should be partially on 44. And if you can help with the tight end, great, but you need to recognize point of attack. The other thing to keep in mind is that your short wing should have great looks at both of these blocks. both the tight end as well as the running back. And like we're going to talk about when we get to quality fouls, don't guess. If something doesn't look right, but you don't have something to hang your hat on in terms of, yes, that was a grab and restrict, and yes, it was a point of attack, and yes, it took something away from the receiver or from the defense, stay off of it. Stay off of those things, because when you look at the video time and time again, when you don't throw on those kinds of plays, you'll say, thank God I did not throw on that play. But because you can see that nothing really happened other than the traffic. All right, so we're going to transition here. If we go a couple frames, this is going to be a block that occurs at the corner. Now, it's difficult to see that there was really anything in there other than just football going on. If you look at the tail end of this play, it might appear that 44 blocked that player in the back. He maintained contact throughout the play. So it's not going to be an IBB, that's for sure, because he maintained contact. Not enough for a foul. That's one that we want to pass. The referee's flag is for a double team that got split, where one of the offensive linemen hauled down a defensive, maybe it's a linebacker in here. No, it was a defensive lineman. All right, so that was not our foul. The other thing to point out is the sideline mechanics and coordination between the short wing and the deep wing. Deep wing is properly positioned, goal line extended. You can see that the area immediately behind him is clear. So if he needs to back up further, maybe as far back as, well, it isn't a track, but the red color that's behind the field, he would be able to back up if he needed to. I guess I would say that probably would be a good idea to back those cheerleaders up a little bit, maybe even push them closer to the bench area, just for their safety as well as yours, and not to get caught up. Now, from a pre-snap point of view, we should know where the front stake is. Front stake is at the 5. So we're going to know if this runner goes beyond the stake, whether he goes out of bounds or not. We've got a line to gain situation and a dead ball. Now, this is going to be the spot. The spot is going to belong to your short wing until it gets to the 2 or in. And that's where the communication needs to take place between your short wing and your deep wing. And when you get down this close, you should be talking every play. Hey, I'm at the goal line, yours to the 2. I got it inside the 2. And then as the play develops, your deep wing should take charge of this. Your spot, your spot, your spot, my spot, my spot. And if it's his spot, then he's going to square this up and come back to the 2 or in to eventually take this forward progress spot. And you don't need to be in a hurry to get up there and to mark the spot. After the player's clear, step up there, put the ball down at the 1.5, wherever it happens to be, and we'll get it right. Now, in this particular case, looks like he went out of bounds at about the 5. Yeah. Okay, next clip. By the way, I chose to have these not have everything in sequential order, because that's not how it happens in a game. You've got to be prepared to deal with transition blocking. You've got to be prepared to deal with goal line coordination. You've got to be prepared to read and react. All those sorts of things intertwine during the game. So it only makes sense that when we study, when we look at video, we do the same thing. All right, this is clip 56. All right, our deep wing, notice our starting position, and we're snapping from the 24-yard line. All right, now, as you saw in the PowerPoint, back judges, you've got 3 options relative to your position when we get into this area of the field. One is the goal line, one is the end line, and then the third one is approximately midway in the end zone. Now, you need to base where you're going to line up, first of all, on your comfort level, time, score, and situation. When in doubt, I would say go to that next location deeper than you're thinking about. If you're going, I don't know about the goal line, okay, go midway in the end zone. If you're thinking about midway in the end zone and that just doesn't feel like that's deep enough, or you're not comfortable, go to the end line. Distance is our friend. That's another axiom that you saw in the PowerPoint. Is it possible to be too deep? Sure. It doesn't happen very often. There are times where you go, okay, that was pretty deep, but that does not happen very often. Deep is good because it gives you an opportunity to see more things. We can readjust the flag. Even if you don't get your flag all the way to the spot of the foul, at the end of the play, we can mark it accordingly. Right now, the point that we're making here, deep wing is in really nice position at the goal line, but he started at the 5. We're snapping from the 24. So why not start at the goal line? Why would we start at the 5? Why wouldn't we start at the goal line so we don't have to move at all? We're at home base right from the get-go. The only way we're going to move off of that spot is if the back third is threatened in the end zone. Same thing with the back judge. All right. Now, this didn't turn out to be challenging from the standpoint of complete or incomplete, but I would say to you from a back judge perspective, you're going to get a much better look at whether the ground contributed to the receiver's ability to control this pass if you're looking at this from the end line as opposed to approximately 4 yards in the end zone. So angles become critical. Starting position becomes critical. Back judges there, I would say to you, the best position for you to be in would be and he's also penetrated in beyond the hash mark. So the ideal position here, position A, would be hash mark extended on the end line to provide support to your deep wing in this situation. All right, next clip, Gregor. Let's skip to number 70. All right, back judge is initially in a correct position here, but he moves unnecessarily. This is going to be a throw towards the end zone at the bottom of the screen. We get kind of a skinny post. All right, now, why do we move here? That is my question. We move, and actually we take an angle away. By moving, we take the angle away. We end up looking at the play almost straight on from where it ends up being ultimately possessed for a score. If you stay back at where in the middle of the field, you get an angle, a much better opportunity to look at that pass, hands and ground, to make that decision. Generally speaking, back judges, we move too much. Generally speaking, our home base is pretty much in the middle of the field. If you're moving, you're not moving very far on that end line. Okay, next clip. This should be 117. All right, once again, we've got options for our back judge in terms of his positioning. We're snapping from the 23. So you got goal line, midway in the end zone, or end line. And this goes back again to your scouting, time, score, and situation, what we've learned during the game, input that we've put into our computer that we're going to consider when we get to this particular point. This is second half, probably third quarter. We don't know the score of the game, but those are all factors that you would put in. All right, so let it run. Running play. All right, so when we see a running play, whether you started at the end line, midway in the end zone, from the 23-yard line, if this is a straight run, unless you've got a receiver that runs a defensive back into the end zone, come up to the goal line, work it inside out, support your deep wings in terms of making a decision relative to, is the goal line penetrated or is the runner down short of the line? And our back judge is in pretty good position there, rotates away from the play, is in good position to make that decision. Okay, next clip. Should be 125. Now, this is going to be goal line mechanics for the back judge and the deep wing at the goal line. Now you can see the feet of the deep wing at the top of the screen. He's back at the limit line. And now we're going to get a running play. And we've got that nicely boxed in between our deep wing and our back judge. Okay, next clip. This is going to be a contested pass. And this action is going to get up on our deep wing because we lose our cushion. And these are the kinds of plays that we absolutely have to be in position to make determinations. Now, that looked awful, didn't it? I think probably everyone on the call would go, ooh. Well, when you watch this, what you're going to actually see if you slow it down is that there really isn't contact in the ball until the ball has hit the turf. So anything that happened there is really immaterial unless it's an unsporting or a personal foul type of action. But this play gets up on us because we don't read and react quickly enough. We're slow to get to that point. Back judge is in good position, stops at the hash mark. We get the play right. And once again, let me say, whether you're the back judge or a deep wing, if you're not in proper position to absolutely positively know that you have a foul, stay off of it and hope that if there was something there, someone on the crew can help you out with putting one in there if we need one. Do not guess. We are horrible when we guess. Our accuracy on fouls goes way, way down when we don't have affirmative information to justify our flag. All right. Let's skip ahead now to, let's go to number 35. We're going to get some transition blocking. And again, this is a responsibility that the deep three, you've got to become comfortable with this. You're not going to have the ability to say, that's my man. That's my engagement. And I'm just going to watch that. And when that engagement is done, I'm done. That's just not how this works. We have to be better than that. This play is going to come to the bottom of the screen. Now, again, you'll notice we don't have press coverage, so that helps us out, at least initially. But now we're going to have blocking decisions that we have to make. The first blocking decision was up about 5 yards downfield. Now, that's probably going to be back judge action. That action right there at about the 48, definitely not enough to justify a foul. But back judge should have that in their sights to be able to make that determination. At the end of the play, we should be able to say, nope, that wasn't enough. 25's action was not enough. Now, the deep wing has a different responsibility. The receiver initially runs off the defensive back and then becomes in a blocking mode. Now, you'll notice that both players have their hands out, so everything is equal until one of the players executes, a pull of some sort, takes something away from the other. We have nothing. But you're going to continue to give ground. You're going to have awareness of where that runner is, but at the same time, you're going to have that block in your sights. You can see that at the very end of this clip, our deep wing is sort of in scramble mode here, as opposed to actually being in a position where they're truly comfortable with what happened by that player executing the block. Now, there's no foul here, but while our cushion could have been a little better, and we could have a little better awareness in terms of what's going on there. All right, next clip. This also is going to be a transition blocking situation. Is this clip 90, Gregor?
Yes, it's clip 90.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's also look at potential dead ball action out of bounds here. All right, now you've got a potential hold there at the tackle position. I'd say it's highly unlikely that the back judge or the deep wing is going to be in a position to see that block beginning to end. That's one that the short wing has absolutely got to look at and have a determination. You might have an opinion, but you're probably not going to have enough to make that decision in terms of whether that's a foul or not. All right, so from this formation, at least in the beginning, the back judge is going to be at the top of the screen. Now, when this breaks down, you're going to transition away from your key, and then you're going to go to point of attack. Now, deep wing at the top of the screen, when the play goes away from you, you need to recognize that the back judge is now transitioned away from his initial responsibility, and you've got to broaden your vision and clean up behind the play. Same thing with the short wing at the top of the screen. All right, now to finish this particular play, the determination that we need to make is whether the action at the sideline is a facilitation of the natural end of the play, or whether something happened out of bounds. Now, in this particular situation, I don't see enough to justify a UNR. It looks like it's close to the sideline. The second guy coming in that's going to finish the deal is aggressive, but that's football. And I would say that our decision not to foul that was absolutely correct. All right, next clip. Let's go to skip 116. We should be looking at like 85. All right, now our deep wing. All right, we need to make a determination in terms of that action at the corner. All right, so it's going to be the wide receiver at the top of the screen. This is a one-on-one situation. Stop it, Gregor. Stop, Gregor. All right, back up to the snap, please. All right, let's talk about initial position deep wings with our footwork. Now, if you looked at the PowerPoint, what I suggested to you was to use a scissors type of approach. So in this particular case, this deep wing's right foot should be behind his left foot, kind of in a scissors position. If you umpire baseball, you're familiar with the scissors mechanics with balls and strikes. When you're facing the field like this, what's the first thing that you have to do to move towards the goal line? You have to open the hip and now take that step. If you have that scissor stance with that right foot back and your shoulders more parallel to the sideline, now it's a jab and go as opposed to open the hip. That becomes important. There are a lot of plays that if we perform correctly, the starting position, that it makes it easier for us to get depth and to cover plays with a proper cushion. But notwithstanding those mechanics, what this deep wing has to make a determination is whether this is equal or whether this wide receiver gained an unfair advantage unintended by the rules by a grab and restrict. So look at the defensive back that's lined up at the 45-yard line and this wide receiver that's going to come out and form him up. This is going to be solely your decision to make, deep wing. Nothing there to justify. Now, the deep wing makes an adjustment, continues to get depth. And in this particular case, we weren't challenged at the goal line. I'm okay with a step or so, but what we don't want to do is deep wings. We do not want to backpedal. I'm telling you, that is not a good idea. You lose your cushion so much quicker. And then the transition going from back pedal to turn and run is a trip hazard for you. So shuffle, shuffle, run is the proper technique for deep wings. Right now, he recognizes that the tackle is made. He checks up. Now, if you have a low impact tackle, like we talked about last week, we want to open up our vision and look for players that are now in pursuit. There's no need to have more than one set of eyes on a low impact tackle. Stop it at the tackle, Gregor. All right. So as this guy goes down, now, all right, you're recognizing there's no fumble. This play is ending in a normal sort of way. You should be looking, use your cursor, Gregor, to see the opposite jersey colors at about the 34-yard line, and then the black colored shirts that are pursuing up to the pile. Now you should get support. You know, your short wing is coming up to the spot, but your umpire and your referee should be cleaning up this play from the backside. Your primary focus should be on the front side of this deep wing and back judge. Same thing for the back judge. We don't need 3 pairs of eyes on this dead ball spot. We need our back judge and our deep wing to be looking at opposite jersey colors in the vicinity. Okay, next clip should be number 80. This is going to be a straight read and react for our deep wing. This is going to break, you know, and we're going to get the opportunity to pursue and get back a little bit because the runner, you know, if you go all the way back to the beginning of this snap occurred at position, what is that, position set or 5 away from the press box. Well, I'm not sure which side of the field is the press box. It's at the opposite hash. And this ends up on the third of the field on the far side of the field. So obviously the runner changes direction, which should provide us as a deep 3 more time to get back to our goal line. But when we get to a point right now, and I don't know if you picked up how quickly I said right now, you've got to recognize as a member of the deep 3, this got a chance to go. And that's where we have got to transition from our shuffle to a full commitment to our cushion so that we can get back and make that determination about what's going to happen at the goal line. Here, it's pretty obvious. This is a touchdown, but we did not get back to our goal line. And from only about 60 yards away with the cut back by the runner, we don't have an excuse for not being at the goal line. All right, next clip. This should be 89. This is going to be the poster child for why you don't backpedal. See, we're backpedaling here, and now all of a sudden, oh, well, I guess I better transition because this guy is going deep. I've been backpedaling, and now this wide receiver has gotten way up on me, and now, okay, I guess I better turn and go. Folks, that's why you don't backpedal. And again, I'm not picking on anyone, but it illustrates our point. Backpedaling is going to get you nothing but in trouble. All right, 97. It's going to be another read and react situation. We're at the...
Did you mean 99, Rich?
No, 97.
All right, we go ahead.
You had it up there. All right, so...
Does this say right here?
No, that's 99.
Here's 73, is that it?
All right, we'll take 73.
Okay.
All right, this is a read and react. See, sometimes you get cutbacks, which changes, that's not the play that I had in mind, but it's a good illustration that when you have runners cut back, it changes blocking angles. And when when the runner goes the direction he's supposed to be going, everybody's where they're supposed to be. But as soon as he cuts back, okay, now all the blocking angles change, and we have to be alert for IBBs. We have to be alert for potentially holding because someone is breaking away at the point of attack. And by the way, this is a pancake. It's not a foul here. He just runs this guy over. You know, it's one thing that's not a tackle. It's not like he tackled. A coach might say that his player got tackled. No, he got his butt kicked. He just got run over by a superior athlete. All right, next clip. This should be 99.
This is 82, but I can go back to 99.
Yeah, go to 99. All right, now 8-yard line. We know that the point of demarcation in terms of decisions that we're going to make with the goal line as field judge, side judge is the 7. So we're snapping from the 8. So we have our deep wings on the goal line extended. And not to belabor the point, but again, that orange marker behind the deep wing at the top of the screen should be back another 6-8 feet. Just get it out of there. All right. So let her run. All right, this is an interesting play. And this is going to involve a lot of coordination between the crew. We know the line of scrimmage is a 7. We have linemen downfield. Now, what's the high school rule in terms of linemen downfield? Is it at the time of the pass or the time of the touch? Somebody help me out in that.
It's got to be out of the quarterback's hand.
All right, so it's based on the release of the pass, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we throw a flag here for ineligible downfield. We know that we have 3 yards before, correct? High school football, 3 yards downfield before, or 3 yards before it's downfield?
2.
2, okay. Thank you, Gary. All right, so this is going to be really close. We snap from the 7. When is this pass released? Go back one more time. Okay, right now it's released. So we need to go back and check, is that player that was at the 5, is that an eligible receiver or ineligible? My point being that even though this is typically an umpire or a short wing situation, it's one we should talk about to make sure that we're aware in terms of when pass is released, when guys are where they are at the time of the release of the pass. This was really close. All right, next clip.
You got 82, is that right?
We'll take it. All right, this is going to be a sideline catch. All right, it's a double move. And whenever you have a double move, deep wing or back judge, you're always thinking that the DB, if he took the bait, and he didn't really take it there, he did a good job of reading that. But if he takes the bait, remember, when they're beat, they cheat, okay? So we would be alert for a grab. Now, if the receiver runs right through an armbar and there's no material effect, then obviously we're not going to throw the flag. But if he takes speed or balance away from the receiver, we would have a foul. All right, now, when you see that double move, you better get some depth, because you know that you're going to get something that's going to be probably 30 or more yards downfield ultimately with this throw. So once you make that determination, you got to get some depth so that you have a good cushion to look at what the receiver is doing at the sideline. Now he's going to be facing the deep wing. So we've got to see both feet and ball. This business about, well, the short wing is going to watch the feet and the deep wing is going to watch the ball. If we're in proper position with a cushion, we can see both. Let's not rely on someone else for support on something that we should have. You can see that we clearly get a foot down. Pass is controlled. There's no problem in terms of the ball bouncing around in there. So this is a good catch at the sideline, but it does require some coordination between the short wing and the deep wing to ensure that everything is the way it should be. One final point, you got a photographer in there. And I have nothing against the media. Well, yeah, I do, but I have nothing against videographers, that sort of thing. They got to be out of that playing area. As you've heard me say before, the lenses that they have, they can pick a gnat off a fly's fanny with those lenses. So they don't need to be this close. And I don't wish ill on anyone, but if that guy had got knocked over, he might have a better understanding of why he needs to be out of that area. Keep your sidelines clear. You need to have awareness, hopefully on every down, that your area is clear and that you've got people behind the limit line. All right, now this is early in the game. Well, no, it's not early in the game. Go ahead and run it. This can be a fade pattern. Now, you can get fade patterns even when we don't have press coverage. And you can see that this goes fade pretty quickly. And we don't get as much depth as we should. Now, it all comes out in the wash this time. But I'm telling you that when there will be times when it doesn't come out, we need to keep that distance. Now, I like the depth off of the sideline by the deep wing. In terms of being away from the sideline, just think we need to be a little bit deeper here to see this and make determinations. Back judge does a nice job in the middle of the field. All right, let's go to number 95. All right, what we're going to get now on this is you're going to get a receiver from the top of the screen that is going to run a pattern that's going to slant towards the bottom of the screen. And as we talked about in one of our early slides, we can't get tunnel vision in terms of our key on our side of the field and fail to recognize how a play is going to develop. And once again, the key is to put your outside eye on that widest threat, which then is going to open the field for you to get a flash to see people coming from the other side of the field and help you make a more timely decision in terms of getting or keeping a cushion. So our deep wing at the bottom is going to get beat because he didn't recognize the fact that this receiver is running free from the other side of the field. Back judge is in good position, would have been at the goal line for us, but it gets up on our deep wing. Okay, Gregor, let's stop at that point. Questions? All that material, there had to be some questions that came out of that. None?
Hey, Rich, I don't have a question, but I got a comment. Does that
Okay,
work?
it sure does.
Yeah. Early on in some of your clips, I could see the deep wing on the press box side, I think, was given the status of the clock. Close out of bounds play, whether it's inbounds or out of bounds. As the referee, that's just huge. Moving downfield or after a penalty, but I noticed that guy was doing on every close sideline play.
You're talking about the deep wing at the bottom of the screen
Yeah.
there?
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's a good point, Chuck. Thank you for bringing that up. That's just good crew communication. What I would tell you is that this deep wing is a fine referee in his own right, both at the high school and the collegiate level. So he would have the perspective of both a deep wing, but also knowing how valuable it is to a referee to know clock status. But there's a great example of a way you can help the crew. If you have 020, you can just hit the button and say, you know, we're in bounds, or whatever you want to say. Or if you don't have 020, then you can provide that information in a nonverbal sort of way.